Today is Tuesday, December 27th, 2011, and this is Vos de Sueños After Dark. Today we have Chapter 2 of My Little Adventures by Cooler Kid. Flying. Flying was fun. Big Macintosh pulled a lazy loop-loop, enjoying the feeling of freedom, the wind in his mane. He finally understood why Pegasi loved flying so much. His wings were undoubtedly the best part of his new body. New body. That was a worry. Macintosh leveled out, frowning as he slowly glided down the mountains towards Ponyville. As fun as this form was, he was an Earth Pony. He didn't want to be an alicorn forever. What if ponies started worshipping him, like the princesses? Oh no, what if the princesses found out and got angry that another pony was pretending to be an alicorn? No, he needed to change back. Big Macintosh stopped flying, hovering in place as his brow furrowed, reaching into his new memories. That was an oddity of this body. It seemed to come with a complete set of memories of whoever the original mind within it had been. The memories were still fuzzy, and there were many things Big Macintosh couldn't remember, like this form's name. Whoever he had been, though, he'd loved to fly. That was one of the first memories Macintosh had recovered. He used these memories now to look for knowledge on the hammer that was tied to his hoof. He was fairly certain that the staff that had changed him had changed into his hammer, and, if that was the catalyst of the transformation, it only made sense that it held the key to revert to his old self. Indeed, his memories on the hammer seemed very clear. It had been very important to this body. It had a name, though he couldn't remember it clearly, and much of his power was derived from it. He was stronger in body and in flight than even the princesses, claimed his memories, thanks to the hammer. His magic was weak, though. This form had little interest in the delicate art of sorcery. Aha! Big Macintosh uncovered a memory of tapping the hammer against the ground to take on a mortal form. That was how the staff had begun the change in the first place, wasn't it? So just repeat the process. That made sense. With the worry off his chest, Big Mac resumed his flight, swooping down towards the ground. His wings pumped powerfully, the gentle currents of Pegasus magic surging around him, shaping the air to provide lift and guide him. Most Pegasi didn't have such a fine control of their inherent magic, his memories told him. It must be the horn, enhancing his ability to shape the air and weather around him. Big Mac pulled the air into a cone around him and dived, pulling up seconds before he hit the ground. How fast was he even going? The ground shot past him faster than Big Mac would have imagined possible, the cone of air around him protecting him from the wind as he shot across the plains. Not even Applejack's Pegasus friend Rainbow Dash ever flew this fast, did she? No, wait. She broke the sound barrier, didn't she? Big Macintosh hadn't tried that yet, but he didn't want to risk the sonic boom alerting others to his presence. Big Macintosh looked up suddenly and swore. The sun was dropping swiftly towards the horizon. Pinkie's party was in less than an hour. He was hours away from Ponyville. How in Equestria would he get back in time? Oh, right. Wings. Big Mac went from a blue alicorn floating in the air above the plains to a blue streak, moving faster than the eye could track. None of the Pegasus weather team should be out this late in the day, so he had little worry about being seen. He landed just outside of Sweet Apple Acres, looking around carefully to ensure that he hadn't been seen. He'd come in low, and at that speed it was unlikely that any pony would see him. Once he was satisfied that the coast was clear, he gave the ground a firm tap with the hammer. There was a bright flash and a crash of thunder, and the old walking stick clattered to the ground at Big Mac's hooves. Big Mac checked his flank and let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. His coat was red again, his own cutie mark had reappeared, and his wings were gone. He checked his forehead. The horn had vanished as well. He felt strangely tired, but after a moment's contemplation, Big Mac decided that he had just gotten used to the sense of power that being an alicorn provided. Big Mac galloped into the house, checking for Applejack and Applebloom, but all he found was a napping Granny Smith and a note from Applejack on the table. She had taken Applebloom and her friends into the town early so they could help Pinkie prepare the food. Taking care not to wake his sleeping grandmother, Macintosh went down to his room and hid the staff under his bed where it wouldn't be disturbed. Then he galloped out the door and towards the town. He wasn't too keen on the idea of a party, but his sister had insisted. "It ain't healthy to stay on the farm all the time," she'd said. Y'all need to get out and talk to some ponies sometimes. Honestly, Sugar Cube, you're as bad as Twilight. Frankly, Big Macintosh would rather face another Ursa than anger his sister. Big Macintosh finally arrived at Sugar Cube Corner, only slightly out of breath and a mere few minutes late. No sooner had he opened the door, however, than the professional party pony had seemingly materialized in front of him with a huge grin on her face. "Yee! You're here!" she squealed excitedly. "We're all super duper worried that you weren't coming or that you got lost or hurt or eaten or fell into an interdimensional wormhole or something while you were out there on your hike, but now you're here, so you must be fine." Pinkie was bouncing excitedly the whole time she was talking, but when she finished, she suddenly stopped and looked up at him expectantly, as if waiting for him to say something. Yep, Big Macintosh finally offered. Being around a pony as excitable as Pinkie tended to reduce his vocabulary to simple replies, as if in self-defense against her boundless energy. "Great!" Pinkie said, beaming. "Oh!" She zoomed away, and suddenly she seemed to disappear, only to reappear moments later with a tray of cupcakes balanced impossibly on her ridiculously curly hair. "Have a cupcake! I made them special for you. They're super special Big Mac birthday muffins." Each muffin had Big Macintosh's cutie mark painted on it in frosting. "I made them with apples instead of cinnamon and brown sugar because I know you like it better than normal sugar, but it's only a little bit of frosting because I know you don't like frosting, but it needs a little frosting because otherwise it's not really a cupcake. And anyway, I needed to put your cutie mark on somehow. Here!" She shoved the plate closer to Mac's face. Not wanting to insult his host, he grabbed on in his mouth and took a big bite. It was actually pretty good. "Well?" Pinkie asked, smiling up at him excitedly. "Don't you like it?" Big Mac finished the cupcake and licked his lips. "Yup. Thanks, Pinkie." "Yay!" Pinkie cheered, leaping up into the air with happiness. Somehow, the tray of cupcakes didn't fall over as she landed. "I'm gonna go tell every pony that you're here." She zoomed away again at top Pinkie speed, leaving Big Macintosh shaking his head in bemusement at the pink pony's energy. Where did she get it all from? "Big Mac!" came a familiar yell, and the farm pony barely had time to brace himself before Apple Bloom tackled him, hugging him tight. "We were so worried." Then she blinked, as if realizing what she said, and let go. "I mean, Applejack was worried. I wasn't worried at all." "Well, I was," Applejack said, coming up behind Apple Bloom. She was trying to look angry at him, but couldn't keep the smile off her face. "What happened to you, Mr. I'm gonna be back for Pinkie Pie's party?" Big Mac chuckled and gave his sister a hug. She relented and hugged him back, grinning. "Sorry, AJ. Guess I just lost track of time." Pinkie Pie was just coming back with more treats as Mac spoke, and her eyes narrowed as her right ear twitched suddenly. She looked at Big Macintosh strangely. Itchy right ear meant some pony was lying, but why would Big Mac lie? Unless... She dashed away, ideas whirring through her brain even faster than normal. Big Mac continued to chat and greet his friends, unaware of the Pinkie Pie plan being plotted by the Pink Party Pony to protect Ponyville from peril. Pinkie laughed a little at that. Twilight would have enjoyed the alliteration. Big Mac was walking back to Sweet Apple Acres alone, tired but happy. His sisters had remained to clean up, but Applejack had insisted he'd go home and rest after his long hike and afternoon partying. That party hadn't been too bad, Big Mac thought to himself. He didn't often get a chance to see his friends from town, often too busy on the farm to have any chance to socialize. Maybe he ought to make more time for Pinkie's parties in the future. It wasn't until the house came into sight that Macintosh recalled what was hidden under his bed. The events of the hike came back to him in a rush. The Ursa, the staff, the transformation. Big Macintosh was not accustomed to fear, but, he had to admit, the thought of that much power hidden underneath his bed made him apprehensive. He almost wanted to get rid of the thing, put it back where he found it, give it to Twilight, to the princess, bury it under one of the apple trees, anything to get it out of the house. That staff, hammer, whatever it was nothing but trouble. Macintosh could feel it in his bones. But Big Mac might have been an earth pony, and he always would prefer to have hooves planted firmly on the ground, but he wanted to fly again, if only once more. Once more, he decided, entering his home and heading up the stairs to his room. He transformed one more time, have a quick flight around the forest, Then he'd give the staff to Twilight. She could be trusted, and she was really smart. She'd know what to do with it, and if she didn't, she could ask the princess. Macintosh entered his room, reached under the bed, and pulled the staff from its hiding place. He gripped the stick in his mouth and turned to leave, only to find Pinkie Pie standing in his doorway grinning broadly.
"I knew it!"
she cheered.
"My pinky sense is never wrong!"
Before Big Mac could ask what in tarnation she was doing in his room, she reached out a hoof and poked his nose.
"You're it!"
she said before snatching the staff out of his mouth and bolting out of the room at a speed that would put Rainbow Dash to shame. Startled and angry, Big Mac took off after her. Pinkie dashed down the stairs and out of the house, Big Mac galloping after her. By Celestia, he was doing a lot of running today. His legs were starting to ache again already. He chased the insane pink pony from the farm and into a copse of wild trees just a short ways away before Pinkie stopped abruptly. Big Mac had to dig his hooves in to stop himself from crashing into her. Pinkie, what the... Hi. Pinkie turned towards him, the staff dropping to the ground beside her.
"Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Big Mac. I didn't realize you were so tired. And I'm sorry I followed you home and broke into your house and stole your stuff and ate the last of your pancakes.
Your what?
But it's really important that I talk to you where no pony could listen in."
She paused for a moment.
"And I was hungry."
Big Mac just stared at her. She seemed unusually serious, for Pinkie at least. So, talk, he said finally. What was so important that you had to steal from me?
"I'm glad you asked,"
Pinkie asked, suddenly cheerful.
"But first, you get the hammer to do any neat tricks yet?"
She poked the staff with a hoof, leaving little doubt as to what she was talking about. Big Mac blinked. You know it turns into a hammer?
"Well, duh. Why else would any pony steal a boring old stick?"
Pinkie giggled.
"Besides, I know you got it to do something. I could feel it all the way from Ponyville, and I'm not even a unicorn, but I do have my pinky sense, so I guess that kind of like cheating. But my pinky sense wouldn't have gone off unless you'd done something."
Big Mac licked his lips nervously. How much should he tell her? She seemed to know an awful lot about the staff hammer thing. After a moment's consideration, he decided on honesty. It turned me into an alicorn. Even bigger than the princess, he said finally.
"Really?"
Pinkie asked, looking excited.
"That's perfect. That'll make this so much easier to explain. Here."
She kicked the staff over to him.
Transform! Transform! Henshin!"
Big Mac reached down to the staff before pausing. Wait, what?
"Transform!"
He stared at her broadly grinning, unblinking face before sighing and picking up the staff and rapping it against the ground. A bright flash of thunder engulfed him, accompanied by a loud thunderclap. Both, however, were much less intense than his first transformation. That was much less dramatic than the last time I donned this visage. Big Mac spoke before frowning. Hold! What has happened to my speech?
"Oh, it's just resonance from your borrowed memories. Don't worry about it,"
Pinkie said cheerfully.
"And there was less of a boom this time because you already woke the hammer up. It knows you now. It doesn't need the extra kablow to bind you to it."
Suddenly, she was right up in his face, an impressive feat considering he was several times larger than her.
"Now, look at this,"
she said, and bopped her head against his. Suddenly, the fuzzy memories that came with this body cleared out all at once, drowning into Big Mac in images. Alicorns filling the sky, flying along a bridge made of rainbows, a grizzle alicorn with one eye sitting on a throne, an aged diamond dog forging the mighty hammer Mjolnir. A war, a face twisted with anger. The last memory sharpened until he could hear the words of the angry pony as clearly as if he were right there. Phil, my hated brother, I swear upon my name, I will destroy you. I will destroy everything that you ever were. I will take your power and your position, and I will destroy Father and rule all of Asgard. I will be the most powerful alicorn this world has ever seen, and I will strike your name from every record and every memory so that not even your loved ones will mourn your passing. So swears Loki the Magnificent, future king of all Asgard. Then noise, violence, destruction, and darkness.
Big Mac! Big Mac, wake up!
Big Macintosh slowly opened his eyes, seeing Pinkie's worried face leaning towards him. She broke into a relieved smile as he woke.
"I'm so super sorry, Big Mac. I should have warned you first."
Big Mac tried to speak, but his mouth was too dry to do more than croak. He swallowed a few times and then tried again. What? What was that?
Your memories.
Pinkie chirped, already recovered to her normal cheerful self.
Or Thor's memories, but you're Thor now, so they're your memories too, sort of, now.
Big Mac shook his head. Who is this Thor? He asked, noticing he was still speaking in his new accent. He was still transformed then.
How to explain?
Pinkie's face screwed up in thought.
Ooh, I know. I'll start with how Equestria was made.
Pinkie!
No, I'm serious this time. Well, more serious than usual, at least.
Pinkie assured him.
It's not really how Equestria was made, but how it came to be the way it is now. Seriously, it's important. Just let your Auntie Pinkie Pie explain everything, okie dokie?
I am 6 years your elder, Pinkie. Macintosh muttered dryly, but seated himself, folding his legs beneath him and preparing to listen. Pinkie assumed what he only assumed to be what she considered to be a lecturing pose, clearing her throat, and began.
A bajillion years ago, way before Princess Celestia and Princess Luna were ever born, there was a world called Asgard where all the Asgardians lived, and they'd visit Equestria by flying across this really pretty rainbow bridge that connected them. The Asgardians were all alicorns like the princesses, only there were a lot more of them. And the boss of all the Asgardians was Odin. He could be kind of a Mr. Grumpy McGrumperson sometimes, and he only had one eye, which made him look super scary, but he was really strong and wise and super duper smart, and even smarter than Twilight, and she's the smartest pony I've ever met. Anyway, Odin had a son named Thor, and he was really cool. He was the fastest flyer in all of Asgard, and the Diamond Dogs made him this super awesome hammer called Mjolnir that made him really strong and let him control the weather better than a whole team of Pegasi. Every pony thought he was really cool, so they let him control all the weather in Equestria, and he became the god of storms, just like Princess Celestia is the goddess of the sun, and Princess Luna is the goddess of the moon. I think that they could have called him god of weather, but god of storms just sounds cooler, don't you think? Anyway, Odin also had another son, only this one was adopted, named Loki, and Loki was a real meanie McMeanie-pants. He loved playing pranks on ponies, except his pranks weren't fun. They were mean, and ponies got hurt, and he was the only one who thought they were funny. No pony in Asgard liked him, and even though it was all his own fault, Loki got really upset and got really jealous of his older brother Thor because of how much every pony liked him. Eventually, Loki got so jealous he started playing some of his meanest pranks ever on Thor, trying to make him look bad so every pony would hate him and he could steal all his power and be every pony's favorite. He was kind of like Luna, I guess, except that he never started off nice and didn't turn cute or huggable after 6 awesome mares zapped him with magic powers. So eventually, Loki's pranks got so mean and dangerous that the other alicorns got really mad and tried to punish him with all sorts of things like zipping his mouth closed or turning into a tree, but Loki was really good at magic and kept finding a way out. Finally, Loki plays his biggest, meanest prank ever, starting a huge war between the Asgardians and a bunch of evil monsters who lived in Asgard too. The war got so crazy that eventually Odin used his most powerful attack that accidentally caused the end of the world!
The world did not end, Big Mac remarked dryly. Else we'd not be here. Pinkie came down from her whole dramatic two-hoof stance and frowned slightly at the interruption.
Okay, so not the whole world. Just Asgard. I don't really get all the magic stuff much. I usually let Twilight figure that kind of stuff out, but as near as I can tell, all of Asgard and all of the ponies and monsters sort of collapsed into Equestria, and all that magic got absorbed into the ponies, which is where the Pegasi and unicorns come from and why Earth ponies are so strong. And 2 big blobs of magic sort of got separated from the rest and became Princess Celestia and Princess Luna, though I'm not really sure how that worked. She shrugged, then frowned. Only 2 things survived the collapse of Asgard. Loki, because he ran away from the war and hid in Equestria, and Thor's hammer Mjolnir, because it was indestructible.
And that hammer? Macintosh looked at his hoof, where the heavy hammer was securely bound.
Transformed itself to hide from Loki and hid in a mountain,
Pinkie said, then smiled.
Until a totally awesome Earth pony found it and woke it back up.
So, I am Thor.
Yep.
An ancient god, from before the birth of Celestia.
That's right.
Because I found his hammer, which was disguised as an ancient walking stick.
Mm-hmm.
Just one question.
Yeah.
How in Celestia's name dost thou know this? Big Macintosh nearly shouted, Thor's accent overriding his own again in his distress.
Oh, I left that part out, didn't I?
Pinkie said, looking embarrassed.
Sorry. See, I know all about it because Loki is my grandpa.
Big Mac blinked. Then again. He shook his head as if to clear it. What did thou say?
Well, technically, he's my great 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 grandpa,
Pinkie said casually.
but with like 5 times more greats. But that would be way too long to say, so I just call him Grandpa. I don't like him much though. He's kind of scary.
Big Mac was silent for a long time, just staring at Pinkie. Pinkie, for her part, just stared back smiling. They sat in silence like that for several long minutes. Finally, Mac shook his head. No. Pinkie tilted her head to the side in confusion.
No?
No! Big Mac shouted, swinging the hammer into the ground, transforming back into his earth pony form. The wooden stick, Mjolnir's disguise, clattered to the ground. I can't deal with all this. It's all too much. I'm just a farm pony, Pinkie. I'm not an alicorn, and I'm definitely no god. He shook his head again, backing away from the stick that lay on the ground. I'm gonna give the stick, Mjolnir, to Twilight first thing tomorrow morning. She can give it to the princess. She'll know what to do.
What? No!
Pinkie said, suddenly looking panicked.
You can't do that!
Why not? Big Macintosh asked, sounding defensive. Twilight would take better care of it than I ever would, and the princess even more so. It would be safer with her than with any pony else.
No, it wouldn't.
Pinkie insisted.
Look.
She snatched the stick from the ground and tapped the ground with it. Mac flinched, anticipating an explosion of light and sound, but nothing happened. Pinkie let the staff drop.
No pony else can use Mjolnir, Big Mac. Most ponies wouldn't even be able to lift it, not even the princesses. I can because I'm descended from an Asgardian pony, and you can because it chose you, but only you can use it.
Big Mac stared down at the staff. He didn't speak. Pinkie tried again.
Loki is still out there, you know. He can track Mjolnir wherever it goes, and now that it's awake, he's going to want to steal it for himself. The safest place for it would be in the hooves of some pony who could use it.
Big Mac continued his silence for several minutes before replying, his voice so low even Pinkie's sensitive hearing had trouble picking it up. What would happen if Loki got Mjolnir? Pinkie looked uncomfortable, looking away.
I don't know, but it wouldn't be good. His idea of a prank is ponies getting hurt and fighting and even dying. That kind of pony shouldn't have that kind of power.
She looked at the larger Earth pony and smiled cheerfully.
But you're trustworthy. You'd never use Thor's power to hurt any pony or make them obey you or turn them into ducks or something.
Mac had to chuckle a little at that. No, I wouldn't. He looked down at the staff. There's no pony else, is there?
Nope.
He sighed deeply and picked up the staff gently. It seemed so much heavier now that he knew its history, its true power. Then I guess I have no choice. Just call me Thor. And that was My Little Avengers Chapter 2 by Cooler Kid. This is Voste Sueños signing off. Safe travels, every pony.